Speed in the animal kingdom usually gets boiled down to one name: the cheetah. But North America has its own surprisingly deep bench of fast mammals, living and extinct, hoofed and clawed, and even one that doesn't touch the ground at all. Counting down from slowest to fastest, here are the fastest mammals ever in North America. Number 16, the white-tailed deer. Starting things off at 40 miles per hour, or 64 kilometers per hour, is the white-tailed deer, probably the most commonly seen fast animal on this entire list. It can hit that top speed in just a few strides from a standing start when startled, and it's capable of clearing obstacles over 8 feet high in a single bound without losing much momentum. That combination of speed and jumping ability is usually enough to put real distance between a white-tailed deer and whatever spooked it within the first few seconds, long before most predators can close the gap. That initial burst is also usually accompanied by a distinctive white tail flick straight up in the air, a warning signal to other nearby deer that danger is close, even as the deer itself is already at a full sprint. Number 15, bears. At number 15, also topping out at 40 miles per hour, or 64 kilometers per hour, are the bears of North America, covering both the living grizzly bear and the extinct short-faced bear, two very different eras of the same basic idea: heavy-set predators that can still close distance fast enough to catch prey most people would assume is far too slow to worry about. The short-faced bear in particular had noticeably longer legs relative to its body than any bear alive today, which is part of why paleontologists estimate it as the fastest bear species to ever exist. The living grizzly bear can't quite match that historical benchmark, but it's still fast enough to close distance on an unsuspecting elk or moose calf in just a few seconds, a fact that surprises most people given how bulky and slow grizzlies tend to look while foraging. Number 14, the Bighorn Sheep. Number 14 goes to the Bighorn Sheep, which reaches 41 miles per hour, or 64.5 kilometers per hour, though its real specialty isn't flat ground speed so much as being able to hit that pace across loose rock and steep terrain that would stop most other animals cold. Their hooves have a hard outer edge and a soft, grippy center that acts almost like a natural climbing shoe, letting them hit near 40 miles per hour speeds while crossing cliff faces that would be a death sentence for a wolf or a cougar trying to follow. This is one of the clearest examples on this list of speed being less useful on its own than speed combined with the right terrain. Since a bighorn sheep doesn't need to outrun a predator in a straight line, it just needs somewhere that predator physically can't go. Rams also use that same sure-footedness during their famous headbutting contests, where colliding at speed on a narrow ledge is a normal part of establishing dominance rather than a rare event. Number 13, the gray wolf. At number 13, reaching that same 41 miles per hour, or 64.5 kilometers per hour, is the gray wolf, a pack hunter built more for stamina than a single explosive burst, capable of holding a fast pace over long chases rather than just a short sprint. Wolves have been recorded traveling 30 miles or more in a single day at a steady trot, and when a chase actually kicks off, the whole pack works together to herd prey into a position where that speed becomes decisive, often splitting up to cut off escape routes rather than simply chasing in a straight line, a level of coordination that few other predators on this list are capable of pulling off. Number 12, the fox. Number 12 is the fox, clocking in at 42 miles per hour, or 67.6 kilometers per hour, and this one tends to surprise people. It's a small, mostly nocturnal animal, but it can outsprint several predators many times its size, and it's also one of the only canid species in North America capable of climbing trees, using curved, semi-retractable claws to scramble straight up a trunk when speed alone isn't enough to escape something like a coyote. That combination of climbing and sprinting makes the gray fox one of the more versatile escape artists on this entire list, even if it rarely gets any credit for it. Number 11, the coyote. At number 11 is the coyote, at 43 miles per hour, or 69.2 kilometers per hour, a species that thrives across nearly the entire continent, from deserts to cities, and that adaptability extends to its running ability. Coyotes rely on a mix of speed and endurance to chase down smaller prey like rabbits and rodents. And unlike a lot of animals on this list, they're just as comfortable maintaining a fast pace for a sustained chase as they are with a short burst, a flexibility that's part of why coyotes have actually expanded their range significantly over the past century, showing up in major cities where wolves and cougars simply can't survive, sometimes navigating busy streets and even subway tunnels without ever being noticed by the millions of people living around them. Number 10. The Jackrabbit. Number 10 is the Jackrabbit, reaching 45 miles per hour or 72.4 kilometers per hour, and combining that top speed with extreme agility, able to change direction almost instantly to shake off a pursuing coyote or fox. It relies on oversized hind legs and long ears, which also happen to help regulate its body temperature during a prolonged chase, something that matters more than it might seem, since overheating is often the real limiting factor for a lot of animals on this list, not muscle fatigue. Despite the name, jackrabbits are actually hares rather than true rabbits, born fully furred and with their eyes open, ready to start relying on that speed almost immediately after birth. Number 9. The elk. At number 9, also hitting 45 miles per hour, or 72.4 kilometers per hour, is the elk, one of the largest animals on this entire list, weighing up to 700 pounds, which makes that speed even more impressive given how much mass it's moving and how much force its legs have to absorb with every stride. Despite that size, elk are capable of sustaining a fast pace over real distance when a wolf pack is on their trail, rather than relying purely on a short burst the way something like a cougar's prey often has to. That endurance, combined with sharp antlers during the fall rut, makes a mature bull elk one of the more physically demanding animals on this list to actually bring down. Number 8. The Mule Deer. Topping out at 46 miles per hour, or 74 kilometers per hour. Easily identified by its oversized ears, it relies on a distinctive stiff-legged bounding gait called stotting to cover rough terrain at speed, launching all 4 legs off the ground at once in a pattern that looks almost bouncy. But this pattern actually lets it clear obstacles and change direction faster than a standard running gait would allow. That same bounding motion also lets a mule deer change direction mid-air, making it far more difficult to predict than an animal running in a straight line. Number 7. The Greyhound. At number 7, reaching up to 47 miles per hour, or 75.6 kilometers per hour, is the Greyhound, a dog breed engineered almost entirely around speed. With a lightweight frame, a deep chest built to house oversized lungs, and an unusually flexible spine, it can cover enormous ground with each stride, sometimes covering over 20 feet in a single bound at full speed, a distance most people underestimate until they actually see it measured out on the ground. During a full sprint, a greyhound spends a surprising amount of each stride with all 4 feet off the ground at once, essentially flying through short phases of its own gallop. Number 6. The Caribou. Number 6 is the Caribou, reaching 50 miles per hour, or 80.5 kilometers per hour, and built for the opposite approach of a sprinter, capable of holding a fast pace over the kind of long migrations that can stretch for hundreds of miles across tundra and boreal forest. Some caribou herds complete the longest land migration of any animal in North America, traveling up to 3,000 miles round-trip between calving grounds and winter range. And their wide, splayed hooves double as natural snowshoes, giving them traction on snow and ice that most other animals on this list simply don't have. That combination of endurance and adaptability makes caribou one of the few animals on this list built primarily for distance rather than any single explosive burst. Number 5. The Cougar. At number 5, also topping out at 50 miles per hour, or 80.5 kilometers per hour, is the cougar, also called the mountain lion, a solitary ambush predator that relies on a short, explosive sprint rather than sustained speed, usually covering the final gap on prey after a slow, silent stalk that can take minutes of careful positioning before the chase even begins. That sprint rarely lasts more than a few hundred feet, since a cougar's body overheats fast at full speed, sometimes forcing it to abandon a chase entirely and rest for several minutes before it's physically capable of trying again, even if the same prey is still visible nearby. Because of that limitation, cougars rely far more heavily on stealth and terrain than raw speed, often stalking within just a few body lengths of their target before committing to the final rush. Number 4. The horse. Number 4 is the horse, specifically breeds like the quarter horse and feral mustangs. These can reach speeds of 58 miles per hour, or 93.3 kilometers per hour. Quarter horses are bred almost entirely around short, explosive sprints, which is where the breed gets its name, since it was originally developed to dominate quarter-mile races. Feral Mustangs descend from horses brought over by Spanish colonizers that later escaped or were released, and while they don't quite match a purpose-bred quarter horse's peak sprint speed, they've held on to a similar burst of raw speed, while adapting to survive completely on their own across open rangeland for generations. Horses themselves actually originated in North America millions of years ago, went extinct on the continent around the same time as most other Ice Age megafauna, and only returned when Spanish explorers reintroduced them in the 1500s, meaning the modern horse's presence here is technically a reintroduction of a species that evolved on this exact continent in the first place, not a foreign import the way most people assume. Number 3. The Pronghorn. At number 3 is the Pronghorn, which can hit 60 miles per hour, or 96.6 kilometers per hour. And this is where the story gets a lot more interesting than just a number. The Pronghorn isn't just fast, it's absurdly overbuilt for anything currently alive in North America, capable of holding speeds well beyond what any modern predator on this continent can match, and for miles at a time rather than just a short burst. Its body is packed with adaptations most other animals on this list don't need: an oversized heart and lungs, a windpipe wide enough to move huge volumes of air with every breath, and hollow hair that helps regulate temperature during a long, high-speed run. No living predator in North America even comes close to testing that ceiling, which raises an obvious question. Why keep that kind of speed at all, generation after generation, if nothing alive today can force you to use it? University researchers who study the species have pointed to this exact mismatch for decades as one of the strangest cases of evolutionary leftover baggage in North American wildlife. Number 2. The American Cheetah. Number 2 answers the question that the Pronghorn just raised. At 70 miles per hour, or 112.7 kilometers per hour, the American cheetah is the animal that most researchers believe is the actual reason the Pronghorn evolved that ridiculous speed in the first place. This extinct predator wasn't a true cheetah at all, but a distant, convergently evolved relative of the cougar that filled a similar ecological role, chasing down fast prey across open plains using a body plan that independently arrived at nearly the same solution as the African cheetah, despite the two lineages splitting apart millions of years earlier. It disappeared around 12,000 years ago alongside most of North America's other Ice Age megafauna, but the pronghorn it used to hunt never lost the speed it evolved specifically to escape it, meaning pronghorn today are still running from a predator that's been gone for thousands of years, holding on to a survival adaptation with no natural predator left on the continent that can actually put it to the test. Fossil evidence of the American cheetah's build, particularly its long limbs and enlarged nasal passages suited for taking in huge amounts of air during a chase, gave this theory real physical backing rather than leaving it as just an educated guess. Number 1. The Mexican free-tailed bat. And at number 1, faster than every other animal on this list, is the Mexican free-tailed bat, clocked at 99.5 miles per hour, or 160.2 kilometers per hour. Researchers attached small radio transmitters to bats emerging from a cave roost and followed them from the air, since ground-based tracking simply couldn't keep pace, and the results shattered every previous assumption about how fast a small flying mammal could actually go. That's not a sprint, and it's not downhill diving speed either, like cheetahs or peregrine falcons rely on. It's sustained, level, horizontal flight, making this small bat, which weighs less than half an ounce, the single fastest mammal recorded anywhere in North America. Before that study, most scientists assumed birds like the common swift held the record for fastest level flight among any animal, but the bat's measured speed didn't just break that record, it obliterated it by more than 30 miles per hour, catching the research team so off guard that they reportedly double and triple checked their own data before publishing. The bats they tracked were flying out of a single cave system in south-central Texas that houses millions of individuals, and researchers still aren't entirely sure why the bats push themselves to that speed on a regular basis rather than just occasionally, since it takes an enormous amount of energy relative to their tiny body size. From a deer that can hit 40 miles per hour in 3 strides, to a half-ounce bat that can outrun a car on the highway, North America's speed record book is a lot stranger and a lot more crowded than most people realize. If you enjoyed this one, let me know in the comments which entry surprised you the most, and subscribe for more.